Carol, thank you so very much for setting up this meeting tonight where we can talk about Lions Quest, what I believe to be the world's most effective program for social emotional learning for our at-risk children across the United States. And we're going to cover that for just a little bit. Here on the picture is my grandson. He's now 5.5. And the coat he's wearing was worn by my father when he was about 5. My grandmother says that my dad rode on the cotton wagon to town to sell the cotton that had been picked that fall with my grandfather. And my grandfather brought back my dad and this wool coat, which has been around now for about 75 years. And so when it was passed on to me, my boys were too old to wear it. So after my oldest son married, I gave it to his wife and I said, whenever Henderson gets to where he can wear it, please make a picture no matter what time of the year it is. As you can tell, it was in the fall, probably about the same time of year as my dad would have had the coat bought for him. And I tell that story to tell you that Lions Quest has been around for over 30 years. And we've been using it in the traditional classroom. We do not compete very well with big book companies to get it into the traditional classroom. We have a staff of about 4 Lions in Oak Brook who focus on Lions Quest in the United States. We don't have a budget to market. We can't compete. And so about 2 years ago now, as I was talking with District Governor Daniel Marney Elkins, he was talking about how that he really would like to use this Lions Quest program in his Boys and Girls Club after school program. And so he did, and he found it to be successful. And from that, we started this conversation about what are some of the niche markets we can move into. And as we did, we know that there's a juvenile justice system where that we have students are suffering from self-esteem issues, the ability to make good decisions, and have made some silly decisions. We know in the foster care system that there's children there that need some social emotional learning. In the alternative schools, the after-school program, and most recently, we're testing it this summer in Idaho with the diabetic camps. And in talking with the director, she says, our diabetic children a lot of times lack self-esteem because they're the only diabetic child that they know. They lack the ability to make good decisions because they're torn between, do I eat the right foods like my friends are, or do I do what the doctors told me to do? And a lot of times they make the wrong decisions. And so as she was talking about the diabetic children, we suggested that maybe we should try Lions Quest. We believe, and it's not been tested yet, and it's all of this, well, the diabetics are what I'm going to call off-label. If we were in the prescription medicine era, we are just simply trying to see where it works, gather some data, and see how it works. Lisa tells me that she believes, and she's going to monitor to prove this over a year, that the students' A1C scores will decrease after Lions Quest. She believes that their grades will increase because that's what it's shown in other areas, which I'll share with you in just a minute. And she thinks that the children will become a community because they're going to use the first 5 lessons at the camp, and then they're going to have what she calls camp year-round, Lions Quest camp year-round, and monthly they're going to have a lesson on Zoom to get through the 16 lessons so until they can come back next year and be together for this next series of 5 lessons, and then have Lions Quest camp year-round. I think it's a great idea. We're going to try it. So as we talk tonight, whatever you see that you believe will work for you, let's try it. Because at the end of the day, the worst thing happens is we only help one child. The best thing happens is we begin to help thousands and thousands of children. And so I'm just brave enough to try a lot of things as long as it's legal and moral. And so as we're talking tonight, and this is the reason that we began to look at the segment of at-risk children that we do. Every 45 seconds, a child or teen is arrested in the United States. Do the math. 700,000 children will stand before a juvenile judge to be adjudicated this year. Most of them will be found guilty, and most of those will be placed on probation. Now, the juvenile justice system has competing and dual responsibilities. They have this need to punish the students, and then they have this obligation to rehabilitate the child so they don't become an adult offender. And so how does Lions Quest meet both of those while also benefiting the child? The high school curriculum is 16-week curriculum. And so whenever a child is caused by the judge to attend a weekly Lions Quest meeting in a way that is somewhat punitive, they have to take an hour out of their day, one day a week, to come to the courthouse, in my case, and to meet in the courtroom with a facilitator. And so that is punitive. But what really happens is they're rehabilitated, because as we discuss the lessons in a few minutes, you'll see that every week they get some new perspective on life, and we put them on a road to greater success. Every 2 minutes, a child is placed into foster care. Most of them are removed from their home with their parents in a plastic bag from Target or Walmart, taken to a strange environment and delivered and said, "This is where you'll live." Well, how long? I don't know, until things get better at home. Well, to be quite honest, most of the things at home have never been better. They just got to the point that they're so bad that now we're removing them to foster care. But what does that do to the child's self-esteem? It destroys it. I mean, not only are they uprooted and taken from their parents, they're uprooted and taken from their parents in plastic bags with no dignity. Now, if you've got a Lions Club and you're just looking for a project, you're not interested in Lions Quest, just a project, I would say raise some money, buy some duffel bags, embroider on them the Lions Club emblem, the name of your club, and right beneath it put "Kindness Matters." Take it to your Child's Protective Services, your Department of Human Resources, whoever moves the children, and say, in our county, never again will a child be moved in plastic bags. Here's 50 duffel bags. When you run out of them, let me know. We're going to get you 50 more, because we as Lions can provide hope to the hopeless if we will. The thing is, will we? Every day that school is in session, over 14,000 students are suspended from school. Many of them go back to an alternative school, and if they learn to behave, they filter back into the traditional classroom. Those children need what we're going to provide through Lions Quest, because they already know how to misbehave and how to be disruptive. And they have, in their mind, been rewarded with a few days out of school. And then they come back to alternative school, where they have some one-on-one and very small classrooms and engagement. And those children who are thirsty for attention have just been fed, because that's really what they want, is someone to just care. And someone cared enough to take them out of school. Someone's cared enough to put them into a unique setting. Someone's cared enough to give them almost one-on-one tutoring. And we as Lions must bring the social emotional learning program to the alternative schools, so we can break that cycle and let them know that that is not how you express love. Now, I can say that because I practice law for a living. I'm familiar with the court system. I have had the opportunity to represent the Department of Human Resources, and I know a little bit about the foster care system. And early on in my career, every Friday I went to the alternative school and taught a series that was called Law at Lunch. And we talked about different laws. And every week, some student in the classroom say, "Ms. Thompson, that's not right. My mama does that every day. Ms. Thompson, that's not right. My daddy does that every day." That's not against the law. It wasn't that they wanted to break the law. No one taking the time to tell them the law. And so when we get all of that, and then we've got 283,000 youth under the age of 20 that have diabetes, and we've talked about their needs. This is the group of individuals that we as Lions can save from themselves. And how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, just for background, and I'm not a clinical psychologist. I'm just taking the information that's been provided to me and I'm sharing it with you. Children suffer adverse childhood experiences. Some of that is abuse, emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. Some of that is neglect, emotional and physical neglect, food insecurities. But most of the time, even if they don't have the neglect or the abuse, they've got situations in their households which are causing them trauma, the domestic violence, the substance abuse, the mental illness, parents separating, parents divorcing. And as a mediator for the domestic relation courts, I know that most of the time when I get to see someone and try to mediate a divorce and help the parents to understand how they're going to co-parent, these parents have separated and gotten back together and separated and gotten back together 3 to 5 times before finally they say, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's divorce. I'm not going to do it. But what they've not realized is their children have gone through that 3 or 4 or 5 times as well. And then some of the children have parents who are incarcerated. When you begin to count your ACEs, a child that has 4 or more of those ACEs is 14 times more likely to attempt suicide, 4.5 times more likely to develop depression, 2 times more likely to have liver disease. 67% of us have had at least one traumatic situation in their life. And trauma doesn't always have to be one of these things listed. What kind of trauma is it goes on when a child, their parents are homeless or they have housing issues and they have to change schools every 6 months, every year, every 18 months? Is that traumatic? Yes, it is. Every time they bond with some friends, they break up. They go to school and they're picked on because of their weight, their height, their hair color, or any of a number of things. Is that traumatic? It is. All those ACEs begin to add up. And a child who has 6 or more ACEs that has not been dealt with and overcome can die 20 years earlier than those who have none. And so, you know why I get excited about Lions Quest? I believe that I'm extending the life of some of our at-risk children because I'm helping them to deal with their ACEs and beginning to move forward on a greater path to success. Adverse childhood experiences are the single greatest unaddressed public health threat facing our nation today, according to Dr. Robert Block, a former president of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Let that sink in. The number one unaddressed public health threat facing our nation today. We as Lions can provide hope to the hopeless if we just will. Now, these ACEs, they impact brain development. They trigger traumatic experiences for a lifetime. If you don't believe it for just a second, go back in your mind to that person that bullied you in school. We've all been bullied. We've all been made fun of. We've all been laughed at. Who's that person? When you meet them in the aisle of the grocery store in your community, if you're like most, momentarily you think, I really want to shop this aisle and encounter them, or do I just want to go and shop this aisle later when they're not here? Some days we're strong and we decide that we're going to shop the aisle. Some days we're emotionally fragile and we just turn around and go to another aisle. And if we do this as adults, just think what children are doing. And in order to deal with our ACEs, it's going to require some non-clinical intervention as well as some clinical intervention. And Lions Quest is that non-clinical intervention. Now, if anyone has any questions, I'll stop here and I'll entertain questions before we move into the Lions Quest program.
This part of the program is, I think, would really fit nicely with St. Jude's Ranch, the new campus. It's the wellness campus. And I am going to be presenting this video to the program director to see, how he feels it could fit. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Now, what we're going to talk about is building a team, building a vision, building a plan, and building success. The global membership approach that we use for districts, that we use for clubs, we use for committees, it will be imperative that we use it to push Lions Quest and promote Lions Quest all across Nevada. Now, social emotional learning has 6 components. That's self-management, managing emotions, behaviors to achieve one's goal. When we taught the first class, we had a basketball player in our class who had been caught with some weed, and he had been placed on probation and required to finish Lions Quest. We have the chairman of the psychology department of a junior college come and talk about feelings, emotions, behaviors. Dr. Bracken is amazing. And as he's speaking that day, this basketball player really connects with him. Now, Dr. Bracken played basketball in high school and college, and they just really connected. And 10 days later, the juvenile probation officer asked the student, "What do you think about Lions Quest?" He says, "Miss Tiffany, it finally clicked. I can feel any way I want to feel. I can have any emotion I want to have, but I've got to watch my triggers, because when my triggers get out of line, they adversely affect my behavior, and that's when I get in trouble." And he says, "I've been practicing for 10 days. I've not been in trouble at home or at school. As far as I'm concerned, all the money that we received from an LCIF grant has paid for itself when we changed the life of that one child." Self-awareness, recognizing one's emotions and values, as well as one's strengths and challenges. And I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to teach the lesson on self-respect. And as I asked about self-respect, the students were a little bit baffled as to how to define self-respect. And so the material is set up so that you have a lesson plan, you have questions, and you lead at-risk children through the discussion, because our at-risk children, more so than even our traditional classroom, they don't want to be told what to do, but they sure do love discovering what to do. So we had to back up for just a second and ask, what is respect? Who do you respect? What do you do because you respect them? And right there on the board, all of the things that they do for others to show their respect. And then come back and ask, are these the same things you do for yourself because you have self-respect? Are you honest with yourself? Do you treat yourself to some downtime? Do you take and clean up your room and dress yourself well as you would take and clean up your grandmother's yard? And they began to understand self-respect. And from self-respect, we began to talk about goals and how important goals were, and how goals, when we complete them, add to our self-respect, because we're learning that we can achieve small things. And we ended the class with each of them writing a goal and an action plan. It was most important. Responsible decision making is another great one. And as we're moving forward with our students, we're finding that they are beginning to make better decisions. One young man's grades, he had failed the second half of the 11th grade. So he was the first semester of 12th grade. He was finishing up his 11th grade work and getting his 12th grade work so he could graduate on time. His grades when we first started Lions Quest was hanging in there about 70 to 75. When we had finished Lions Quest, and I firmly believe it's because of the what we had taught him, his grades had gotten up to 90s. He, in fact, did graduate in May. And the first thing he did after he graduated is he sent me a picture of him in his cap and gown holding his diploma. He was so proud. And we as Lions was able to add value to his life. Relationship skills. And we have the director of Alabama Medicaid for North Alabama, who takes an hour out of her day 4 times a year to come and talk about toxic and healthy relationships. And she told the newspaper reporter when he was interviewing her about Lions Quest that she had learned more about toxic relationships and how to get toxic people out of her life than she ever learned before, because she had to prepare these lessons for the students. And so she's teaching the lessons. And she told the reporter, she says, there's a couple of folks that I've had to remove from my life. The benefit just was not worth the risk. The toxic and the drama was not worth the friendship. I outgrew them and I moved on. And that's what she's teaching our students. Social awareness, showing understanding and empathy for others. And part of that also is communication. And as we have the social worker from the school system can't come and talk about this class on on communicating, she had everyone write down something that they really wished that they could communicate and ask for help with, but they didn't know how. She shuffled the papers and then she'd read an example and they would talk about the different ways that they could communicate that, what's responsible communication, what's not responsible communication. In that stack, and one that she didn't cover, but she passed to the juvenile probation officers who passed it to the judge, who called me the next morning. And she says, Judge Terry, Angela Terry, she says, Jerome, when you were talking about Lions Quest, you said that we were partnering with the Moulton Lions Club, and where there's a need, there's a lion. Was that true, or was that just salesmanship? And I said, no, that's true. We as Lions, and especially here in Moulton, Alabama, where there's a need, we're going to show up and meet that need. What you got? She says, I have a young man in the class who wrote, I get so frustrated at the end of the month when I go home and there's no food in the house and our food stamps have run out. I'm hungry and I don't know how to tell anyone. I'm sorry, I just nearly cried the day she told me. I cry every time I tell the story. I said, Judge, give me 2 hours. Two of the members of our club run food banks and food pantries. And I called one of them. I said, this is the situation. Can we have some food? And the Lion says, tell me where they live. I'll carry it to them right now. And I said, well, because of confidentiality with students, I can't tell you where any child lives, but I can tell you that if you'll deliver a box of food to the juvenile probation officers, they will get it to that family today. They won't be hungry tonight. And so she did. And now every 2 weeks, we deliver food to the food pantry there with the juvenile probation officers so that no child on probation will ever have food insecurity again. It's unique needs that we didn't know was there, but all of a sudden they're there. Also, these kids need to know someone cares. One young man, and the young ladies have also made some great comments, but it seems that the young men have really opened up and expressed themselves. And one says, Mr. Thompson, I'll never be off probation. I don't know where you get community service. My parents don't. And if we did, our cars broke down half the time. In the back of the classroom, monitoring the class was superintendent of education. So when class was over, I talked to the superintendent. I said, did you hear what the need was? And he says, yeah, but I just don't know what we're going to do about it. I said, well, let's think about it. He gets to school every day because there's transportation. He gets home from school every day because there's transportation. Did I not read in the newspaper last week that some of your principals was asking people to donate time to come to the school and do some things around the school that needed to be done? He says they were. I said, why not allow these students in Lions Quest to miss a PE or miss a study hall once a week to get their community service? And by the end of the school year, all of them will be off probation because they will all have gotten their community service. He says, nobody's ever asked us to do that. Let me talk with my principals. I said, you teach the class next week. And so when you teach the class next week, I want you to be able to tell them that you have solved that problem because we care. The leaders of this community have stepped up and we care. He called me 2 days later and he says, all the principals on board, I will tell them on Wednesday, all that we got to do is get a note from the probation officer that they need community service and we'll make it happen. Once again, it was a need that we didn't know. But Lions Quest is more than a curriculum. It's more than what we do for the children emotionally and socially. It's what we do for the entire child, letting them know that there's caring individuals that are willing to walk beside them, prop them up, and hold them up sometimes when they can't hold themselves up. Now, at Lions Quest, we're going to build some healthy relationships in the community and among peers. Our judge has identified 16 community leaders who will spend 1 hour, 4 times a year, teaching the same lesson to 4 different groups. It works. We've got 2 members of the Board of Education, the Superintendent of Education, 2 attorneys, the social worker, the grant writer for the school system. We've got the head of the psychology department. We got the head of the Medicaid agency. We've got retired teachers. We've got a former police officer. We've got the head of the emergency management. We've got now the district attorney who come to me and says, Jerome, we usually just prosecute these kids. Can they see me in another light teaching and facilitating it? And I said, absolutely. We've got a police officer, quality people who care about our kids, who are coming together to put them on a better footing. Increasing students' connection to schools and caring adults, most important. One of the students said that their parents did not attend their sporting event, and would somebody just come and watch them play one evening. Some Lions got together, they went and watched the student play, and everyone got a text message the next morning thanking them from the student. It's amazing how we're changing lives. We're changing the ability and the self-esteem and the self-worth. We're helping children to choose conflict resolution over aggression. 2 years ago, gun violence became the number one cause of death, ages 1 to 19, overtaking automobile accidents. We're helping students to choose conflict resolution. We're lowering rates of substance use. We're lowering rates of truancy. Lions Quest works and continues to work. These are some of the lessons, a total of 16 lessons, clarifying our values and growth opportunities, self-respect, people's emotions, stressed out, even that'd be good for adults, wouldn't it? Communicating the what, when, how, why, and how message, healthy versus unhealthy friendships, conflicts solved, the bully, the bullied, and the bystander. Our juvenile judge was asked to speak on bullying. And when she was asked to speak on that, she told me she went directly to the Lions Quest material and she reviewed it. And that's how she built her presentation, because in her own words, it was the best outline for how to address the roles of those who are being bullied, those who are doing the bullying, and those who are just standing and watching, because we all have a responsibility. Unhealthy results from alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. We have a drug counselor who gets paid to counsel with youth, young adults, and on alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. She gives up 4 hours a year to come and to talk with our students about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. She is fantastic and doing a beautiful job for our program. Decision-making styles, outside pressure. That peer pressure gets to us as adults. It gets to our students as well. Modeling healthy lifestyles and reflecting on learning. And there's more, a total of 16 lessons, fabulous lessons. Now, the PACE Center for Girls is located in Florida. They use the Lions Quest program. This is an evidence-based program. And as long as we follow the curriculum, we're going to have similar results. And this is the results from the PACE Center, which is proven time and time again. Prior to Lions Quest, 78% were failing one or more classes. After Lions Quest, 90% of the girls had improved academically. 18% had previously been involved with the juvenile justice system. 91% afterwards were not involved in the juvenile justice system 1 year after the intervention. If I've got that right, it went from 18% involved now to 9% that was involved. And I can tell you, when we've graduated our first class of 8 in December, when we got to May, I was talking to a juvenile probation officer, and she says, Jerome, none of the 8 have been back to see the judge. And she says, that first group you had, they were coming to see the judge every 3 or 4 months. The fact they've gone 5 months without seeing the judge is a miracle. Now, I can't tell you they'll go a whole year, but I think that we change lives if we slowed it down to once a year instead of once a quarter. And so then 58% of the girls had been suspended or expelled. 1 year later, 74% remained in school, in college, or were employed. Now, that means 26% was not in school, was not in college, or were unemployed. I think that that's less than half of the ones we started with. And so those are some tremendous results as far as I'm concerned. Now, as we continue, Lions Quest we're going to bring together the material, but it doesn't stop there. We're not just going to ship a box of material. We're not just going to give you an access code and say, here, run with it. We've got Lions Quest training for all the facilitators that talks with them about their role as a facilitator, talks with them about how to use the curriculum, talks with them about how to be flexible and to throw in their own personal stories and examples to relate to the children. And then we're going to bring our Lions, our family, our school, our community together to impact these children. Phase 2 is that a club that has adopted a Lions Quest program then should form a community-based Leo club, not a Leo club in the schools, but a community-based Leo club, so that every one that graduates from the Lions Quest program is invited to become a Leo, and you begin to then do service projects with them and teach them other skills that they need to find greater success. And when we continue to add value to these students, when they turn 19, they're going to say yes when we ask them, would they like to be a Lion? Would they like to make a difference? It is an evidence-based program. SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services, has us in one of the top 10 programs on their list. CASEL, who evaluates social emotional learning, rates us as one of the best programs. The NOVA Foundation, which creates change among youth, is a major funder of the Lions Quest program and Lions Club International Foundation, and operates and engages with the Drug Enforcement Agency. The DEA encourages agencies to use Lions Quest because of our partnership that we have with the DEA. And so, high in the sky, a vision for a better tomorrow. Serve 700,000 children who have been arrested. Even if we served half of them. Serve the 262,000 children who are placed in foster care every year. Serve the 2.5 million children who are suspended annually from school. Serve those 283,000 diabetic children and youth under the age of 20, and eliminate gun violence as the leading cause of death for ages 1 through 19. If we could do half of that, this world would be a better place. Our communities would be a better place. Our children would be more productive as we move forward. Now, it's time that we begin to expand our footprint of service. And as we begin to talk about expanding our footprint of service into different agencies and into different communities, let me pause right here once again and ask, are there any questions?
I don't have any. This is wonderful.
Thank you. It's a gym that we as Lions own through Lions Quest Foundation, Lions Club's International Foundation, and it's one that has been so underutilized. As we identify how to use the program with at-risk children, we're going to need Lions that will adopt these programs. And I firmly believe that every Lions Club that's out there should be given the first opportunity to embrace the program for their community. Some will, some will not. Because, you know, we have Lions that have been practicing the phrase, we've never done it that way before, for as long as they've been a member. And so we're going to go to some clubs and we're going to go to through the program here. And we're going to say, and your judge, your alternative school, your at-risk program would like to put the program in. Would you adopt the program and make it your part of your service? And some Lions can say, we ain't never done that before. Nope, not going to do it. And all the others are just going to agree. And, you know, we're not going to fret for a moment. We're going to ask the follow-up question. If we found 5 or 6 folks that wanted to do that, would you let it be a branch of your club and continue to serve and increase your membership and have your impact in the community? Some will say, yeah, we'll take a branch, but we're not going to do it ourselves. And some will say, I don't know about that branch, and we're not going to have anything to do with it. Thank you so very much, because you know what? In every community across the United States, I can find 20 caring individuals that love children enough to come together to form a specialty club to focus only on Lions Quest. Would you agree? Is every community has at least 20. It's just a matter of getting out there and finding them. And we can do that because as we continue to move forward across Nevada, there's so many communities that don't have a Lions Club that could really benefit from Lions Quest. And this gives us a reason to bring those individuals together. How do we get started? There's a 10-step process to start in a club, and I've adapted them for the Lions Quest as well. First, we've got to develop that area of opportunity. We've got to visit with the juvenile judges. We've got to visit with the alternative schools. We've got to visit with the diabetic camps. We've got to visit with anywhere that there's children that could benefit from our program and find somebody that says, yes, I'd like to do this. And as soon as we know where the opportunity is, then game on. We are fixing to plow right through these 10 steps. We're going to develop our team within our district. We're going to get our Lions Quest chair, our global membership team leader, our global extension team leader, our district governors, Lions that are engaged in those juvenile courts, alternative schools, diabetic camps. We're going to get them together and we're going to educate them about Lions Quest. We're going to share this video with them and we're going to get them excited about the possibility. Then we're going to conduct a site development research. We're going to schedule a meeting with that juvenile court staff and schedule a meeting with that alternative school leadership. And we're going to listen. What is your needs? How could this program help you? Who's going to teach it? How would you like to see this set up? Because judges have been in control wearing their black robe for as long as they remember, and we're going to act like they're still in control. We're going to give them some suggestions. And I'm going to tell you, Judge Terry's idea to bring 16 community leaders together to add value to our students was brilliant, because then no one gets bored with a facilitator. Every week you get a new facilitator. Everyone has someone that they can identify with. We have Caucasian, we have individuals of color, we have people who are hands-on blue-collar workers, we have professionals, we have educators, we have males, we have females. We run the gamut so that every student that is on probation can identify with one or two of those individuals. And I know they are. A few weeks ago, one of our facilitators went in and this young man was sitting along the wall, and they stopped and asked, what's going on? How are you doing? And the student says, I've smoked weed every day since I was 12. And my probation officer says, I've got to stop if I'm ever going to get off probation. And I haven't smoked in a week, but I'm really struggling today. I don't know if I'm going to get through the day without weed. Well, how do I know we made a difference in that child's life? Because that's the first time that child has ever admitted to anyone they were struggling about anything. The instructor tells me that he sat down next to the student and says, you know, some days I have tough days. And some days I just try an hour at a time, just get through this hour. Some days I have to go 5 minutes at a time. What I'm going to do today as I'm teaching is I'm going to look at my watch about every 10 minutes. I'm going to tap it. And that's to tell you that you've made it through another 10 minutes without weed. And when you get home, I don't want you to think about tomorrow. I just want you to think about the next 10 minutes. The next 10 minutes is bedtime. And when you get up tomorrow, if you can go 15 minutes, go 15 minutes. The student says, no one's ever told me I could do it that way. No one's ever told him he could do it that way. We're changing lives. A week later, the same student comes back and says, I've gone 2 weeks without smoking weed now, 10 minutes at a time. And so that's why that I think that this is so powerful. Let's talk with the agencies that want to use Lions Quest and see how that they want to use it. And then let's make sure that we give them a gold standard model to follow. Then we're going to begin to promote that new club. We're going to apply for the Lions Quest promotional grant. $1,500, no match. Lions Quest International, Lions Clubs International Foundation will send your district to promote Lions Quest. Plan a dinner, plan a reception, Invite 25, 35, 75 together that care about children. Explain to them about Lions Quest. Explain to them about Lions Clubs. And when we come together, we're going to put this program in our community. Some of you will need to facilitate, and all of you will need to support. And we're going to form a new club with one focus, and that focus is going to be Lions Quest. And then after that club's up and running, go ahead and make them a 501c3 instead of a 501c4. And then make sure that you have all the sectors covered in the Drug Free America grant application. And then that club applies for a Drug Free America grant. And Drug Free America grant sends money for us to do what we've been doing with fundraisers. And no longer we have to raise funds, but we've got $50, $7,500, up to $125,000 a year to make an impact in youth in our community. I dream big, can you tell? Let's start with a club. Let's add a Leo club. Let's make sure that we've got all the sectors covered. Let's become a 501c3, and let's let the government fund our service in a mighty, mighty way. And then we're going to begin to recruit those charter members after we've had that dinner and we've got those folks together. We're going to continue to focus on the 12 community coalition sectors. We're going to solicit members at informational meetings. We're going to shoot for 25 to 35 charter members. They're coming together. They're excited. We're going to do more than Lions Quest. Our specialty is going to be youth. Lions in our neighborhood schools. We're going to adopt a kindergarten classroom, and we're going to go and read to them. We're going to find those students that need shoes, and we're going to buy them shoes. We're going to take and host personal hygiene closet to school. We're going to talk about food insecurities. We're going to bring Lions Quest. We're going to really change the lives of our youth. And then the sixth step, we're going to conduct an informational meeting. We're going to talk about the history of the Lions and Melvin Jones. We're going to talk about how that we started as a community needs organization, and we got away from that because Helen Keller asked us to become Knights of the Blind. And then after that, we splintered into 5 global causes. And now in 2023, we're returning to the community to talk about helping our youth and changing the quality of life for those in our communities. The club's coming together real quick. We're going to hold our organizational meeting. We're going to elect some officers, and we're going to partner with that agency to bring Lions Quest. We're going to submit that charter application, and we're going to then get our charter approval back from Lions Clubs International. And we're going to continue to develop our club, develop new service projects to find out what the interests are of all of our members. Where there's a need, there's a lion. Where there's a child without a smile, we are going to bring a smile. Kindness is, in fact, going to matter. Now, I get real excited. Every Lions Quest implementation is going to look a little different. Why? Because the needs of our youth in all our communities are not identical. The community of Lions vary. You take every club, 45,000 across the United States, and you lay them side by side. There's not 2 identical twins in the bunch. Our partners will each be different. They'll have different needs and different ways that they want to use our program. And as long as they follow the lesson plans and the implementation, then we're okay. Whether they do it on Tuesday, whether they do it on Wednesday, whether they do it every week, every other week, whereas the diabetics, they start with 5 lessons and then camp around the year with Lions Quest, we're good. Lions Quest is evidence-based. We must follow the formula to achieve the desired outcome. The lessons have to be taught in the same order that the lessons are taught every time. The questions and the lesson plan from A to Z must be taught that way every time. And when we do, we're going to have some amazing results in your community. You're not standing alone as Lions. We've got Lions Clubs International. We got Lions Clubs International Foundation. We have the Lions Quest staff. We have tools and resources to pave the road to success. And together we can, and together we will change the world one life at a time. We have a $1,500 promotional grant. And when you've promoted this and have an agency that says, yes, I'm going to implement it, then you can apply for a $15,000 grant. And that $15,000 grant will cover the training of our facilitators. You can train up, the Lions Clubs International will train up to 40 facilitators on one Zoom call in 2 hours for a fee of $1,500. The license for a facilitator to use the material for 5 years is $199. And I'm here to tell you that after you've seen it used one time, there's not a club on the face of the earth that wouldn't find $200 to buy a license for a facilitator. I just don't believe that they will. With $15,000, I've found in North Alabama, we can put in about 4 to 5 programs. That's with some consolidated training so that the facilitators from a couple different programs were being trained in that group of 40. And that's with everyone having a license. It's doable. Now, that's not matching. Up to 2 districts per multiple district per year can qualify for those grants. And then if you get real big, you can apply for a $150,000 grant, Lions Quest grant, which requires a $50,000 match from the district. But that's still $200,000. I had the opportunity to speak to every juvenile judge across the state of Alabama a few weeks ago about putting Lions Quest in. And if every juvenile judge says yes, then we're going to have to apply for that big grant in order to fulfill our purpose and our mission of changing lives. At www.lions-quest.org, you're going to find a lot of information about Lions Quest. Most of it is geared toward the traditional classroom. That's all right. Read it, learn about it, and know that we are going to adapt it to some of our most at-risk students. You've got Lions Quest resources for Lions there. You've got Lions Quest, the global leader in positive youth development. That's a video there, more grant information there. All of these links you can click on and go to the site or cut and paste into your browser. Also specialty clubs. And specialty clubs, there's nothing special about them. It's just a Lions Club with a single focused interest. And that is, it might be the Friends of the Library. It may be the Academic Booster Club. In our particular case, what I'm promoting is that they be focused on youth and Lions Quest. And then how to start a new club and the 10 steps are covered here at lionsclubs.org/start a new club. What does success look like in your district? I think you set out the need for Lions Quest to your community. Talk with folks. Reach out to Nicole Mattia at Lions Quest in Oak Brook, or reach out to me with any questions. And let's see if we can just start one specialty club between now and July 31st of 2023. And if we can, we'll begin to change Nevada for the better. Questions, comments, concerns? Let me stop sharing my screen there. Thank you so very much for allowing me to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Okay, so the nerd in me, the PhD person, you keep saying that this is evidence-based.
Mhm.
Who developed it? Like, was it developed by Lions, or is it something that you guys adopted? Lions adopted, or?
Lions Quest was a social emotional learning program that we bought from a company 30 years ago, the curriculum. And the curriculum has been updated by experts and is going through a current update. And we've updated every 5 to 10 years just to make sure that we stay socially and emotionally relevant with examples. We don't need to be talking about driving your horse and buggy to the farm market.
Right, right.
And so also then when you go to the lionsquest.org, that some of the evidence and those who evaluate the program, you can find there on the website, which would feed your nerdy side and your PhD side. And I say that lovingly, don't be offended.
Not at all, not at all. And then you said for the license, so is it $199 for a 5-year license per facilitator or per person that's teaching the class, or per club? And then we have the 16 facilitators?
Is per facilitator, so that
Okay.
each one will have their own password and be able to download their own material and use it. Now, the material, and that's part of the training, but the material that when you get it, you'll open up your lesson and you'll click on it and it'll have all the PowerPoints that you need to use during your presentation. It'll have for you things you can click on and print out for the worksheets for the students. And then it'll have what I call the script, the lesson plan that says, ask this question. This is the outcome you're looking for. And they go through a typical lesson plan that is engage the students, introduce the topic, apply the topic, and then practice. And a session usually will run somewhere between 35 and 50 minutes, depending on the questions, the student participation, and the facilitator. Some of them, like me, like to talk more than others.
Okay, so it sounds like they do give you kind of tools to keep the kids engaged. Now one other thing, this sounds like it's more for like, I don't want to say older kids, but older kids. Is it like high school based or I mean, I don't think we would be doing some of this stuff in elementary school, would we? Or
the curriculum is K through 12. And of course,
Okay.
the lesson plan K through 8 is 32 lessons. And the high school curriculum is 16 lessons.
Okay.
And the reason we selected the high school curriculum for the juvenile justice system is most of the youth there are from 8th grade through 12th grade before that they're placed on probation and there. But we've got curriculum that goes all the way down to kindergarten level curriculum. And you can use it all the way through. And also then the high school curriculum has 4 levels, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade level, the same topics, just with a greater depth every year as you go through. Now, what we're using with the juvenile justice system in Lawrence County is we are using the 9th grade level because most of our at-risk children, they're in juvenile justice system. Their reading skills they're not 12th grade reading skills, I'm sorry. But our 8th graders are able to grasp the 9th grade material, and our high schools are still not offended by going to the 9th grade material. And that's what we've used over and over and over again. We're about to place this in the alternative school in our county, and they will use all 4 levels and work into having all their students at different levels moving forward, because some of their children will always be there. They'll graduate for the alternative school, as sad as it sounds.
And then my last question, my thinking outside the box. A lot of your statistics were for ages 20 and under. Has anyone ever tried this with young adults, 21 to 24, 25?
I'm going to tell you that all of our evidence-based has been the 18 and under, the seniors and under. However, I'm convinced that we can go off-label with it, and some of the young folks who are getting out of jail, or they're getting out of the traditional system, court system, could very well benefit from this. The judge said the other day she thought every adult that comes through her court system with a misdemeanor should be required to take this lesson. We have a young man in Baltimore who wants to adapt it for police officers to assist them with understanding the mentality and the motivation of those that they encounter to reduce police violence. And so that's being discussed. I cannot tell you that it's evidence-based, but I can tell you that the lessons that we have would work with some of our underdeveloped, emotionally and socially young adults. Was that a politically correct term?
I don't know, and I don't care.
It
No,
worked.
but that was just my thought, you've got these kids that maybe, just getting out of the juvenile justice system. Now they're adults. They have no social emotional development. So why can't we try to get something in them, now at 22 years old or something? So
I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of teachers. I think that every educator should go through these 16 lessons just so they have a better idea of how to interact with the students in their classroom. I mean, we'll never be parents, but we've got to almost step in and be the parents sometimes, because most of these kids, the only thing they've had modeled is breaking the law, abusing drugs, domestic violence. And if we're going to break the cycle, we're going to have to do it in a very positive way. And so I hope that answered some of your questions, but I'm here to answer whatever other questions the two of you have.
you did. Thank you so much.
I'm working on an assumption, and I guess I need correction if it's untrue, but I used to volunteer in a correctional facility teaching reading to young men in their 20s, early 30s, who never had a chance to really, take the time to study and work on reading. And, they seem to be really emotionally, there was a deficit in where they should be socially, and there was a deficit in how to handle everyday circumstances because they never went through it. And I would almost think that the high school program could help a lot, giving them insight on how to work with the skills for action. Like if something happens, how do you handle it? Is that a correct assumption?
The doctor would probably be in a better position to do that, to tell you that is or isn't the case.
Thank you.
What do you think, doctor? Yes.
I forgot. Sometimes I forget I'm a doctor.
You said
No.
PhD.
I absolutely agree, Carol. And I think that's just what it is, and kind of absolutely what I was saying too. That they're not getting that social development, that emotional development at home, and they become these emotionally, socially stunted adults. I absolutely think that this program can work for some of these people.
This is what I would suggest the two of you do if you'd like to pilot that for us. Just write a proposal, doesn't have to be pages and pages, a page and a half or so, about how you'd like to use the program, what you believe the outcomes could be, and then let's pilot it, and then let's monitor the results and become evidence-based in that area, so we can open it up to some other programs across the United States. The problem you talk about is in every community across the United States, and we as Lions are going to have to reinvent ourselves if we're going to grow and expand our footprint of service. And you ladies have been tremendous with your ideas. I hope I have sparked a few thoughts along the way. And I look forward to working with the Lions in Nevada. I want you to, once I share this video with you, I want you to share it with all the Lions that are interested in listening. We've been going about an hour, and I do appreciate it. I'm going to cut off the recording here, and thank you for everything.
Oh, thank you so much.